News Hour begins with an update on minimum wage, where we understand that President Bola Tinubu may sign the minimum wage bill into law next week, following its recent passage by the National Assembly. Sources within the Assembly say the bill has finalized or was finalized on Wednesday and transmitted to the President on Thursday after an expeditious passage by both chambers during Tuesday's plenary session. Now, Senior Special Assistant on National Assembly Matters, Abdullahi Gumel, confirmed the development, noting that the President's anticipated swift assent to the bill. The National Assembly swiftly passed the National Minimum Wage Act 2019 Amendment Bill after President Tinubu and Labour leaders agreed on 70,000 naira as the new minimum wage for Nigerian workers during a meeting at the Aso Presidential Villa in Abuja. President Bola Tinubu has quelled fears of manipulation by any interest group in the ongoing economic reforms, asserting that his campaign was self-financed and free from any obligations to individuals or institutions. Receiving a delegation of Islamic leaders at the State House on Thursday, the president emphasized that his electoral victory was the result of divine intervention, meticulous planning and diligent efforts to garner support from Nigerians. Thursday's meeting was part of a last-minute effort by the Tinubu administration to address severe criticism over its policies and avert a planned protest. Now, since the removal of the fuel subsidy and the floating of the naira, the cost of living has soared, leading to widespread discontent among citizens. Traditional rulers in the country have called on citizens to shun plans for the upcoming nationwide protest, saying that there is a need for patience as the federal government resolves issues affecting youths in the country. This was after a meeting with President Bola Tinubu at the State House in Abuja, Nigeria's administrative capital. Amadine Uyi reports.
The meeting was the first of its kind, with the president, members of the Federal Executive Council and traditional rulers.
The very first time, the traditional rulers were properly engaged in terms of the plans of government and governance, their achievements so far, and where they're having challenges.
The Ooni of Ife, while speaking to newsmen after the meeting, commended the president and his cabinet members for recognizing the role of traditional rulers.
Stewardship from the Federal Executive Council directly to the traditional rulers. It has never happened in our nation before, never. This is the first time we're all experiencing it. We have traditional rulers that have been on the throne for 40, 50 years. Today is the very first time we will be addressed properly by the Federal Executive Council.
The rulers urged those planning to embark on a nationwide protest not to take the laws into their hands.
It is very difficult to build, but it is the easiest to destroy. We are all stakeholders of this country. We should be stronger as a nation together than stronger individually. The president has said it and he will continue to say it. Any leader that you don't like, wait and vote him out. Wait and vote him out.
This protest, I know that it's catching you very, very high in your neck. But if you give us the chance, let us not destroy our own country. I ask you, think of Libya. Libya was a beautiful country. What has happened to Libya? We don't want it to happen here.
The message we are taking back to our people is to be calm, to exercise patience, and also to listen to the words of wisdom coming from the traditional rulers, from the governors, because we have spoken to the president and he has given us the blueprint of what he has been doing over time.
The Emir of Zauzau revealed that the rulers also tasked the president to address insecurity.
We have made it very clear to him our main problem in this country, especially in the north here, is security issue. if the security situation is addressed, certainly people will go back to their farms. So the issue of hunger will drastically, go down and it will disappear.
The traditional rulers are also calling on youths in the country to have patience with the current government. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has warned protesters to shelve any plans of taking to the streets within the federal capital under the guise of a nationwide protest. This was during an emergency security meeting with heads of security agencies and area council chairmen, where he urged residents to embrace changes and development ongoing within the capital, saying that President Bola Tinubu is doing so much to bring infrastructural development to citizens.
For instance, FCT, we have seen the changes in FCT. We have seen that government is working. Mr. President, I give FCT so much support that a lot of us can attest to the fact that there are a lot of changes going on in the FCT. And therefore, we will not allow anybody to set us back. We are looking forward to make sure that we take FCT to where it's supposed to be, as one of the major cities, not only in Africa, but also in the world. And so we will not allow anybody to disrupt peace. For those who want to protest on the 1st or thereabout, FCT is not available for such a protest.
Director of Mobilization for the Take It Back movement, Damilare Adenola, has formally requested permission from Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, to use the Eagle Square for the upcoming #EndBadGovernance protest. In his letter, Adenola outlined the need for access to the venue both day and night. He also requested provision of power supply and access to other essential facilities within the square. He also asked that the protesters be afforded the same level of courtesy extended to foreign and local dignitaries who have previously used the venue. He expressed hope that the barriers obstructing access to the Aso Rock Villa be removed to facilitate easier entry for the protesters. Joining us on the news is Nelson Ekujimi, a public affairs analyst, and Dr. Jide Johnson, a public affairs commentator. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us at this time.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
So let's begin with you, Ekujimi. What are your thoughts on the planned protest and the widespread reaction, it has sparked?
Well, thank you very much. I just watched your news now, and this is the first time we are seeing any group or any name being identified with the protest. Formerly, the protest organizers have been underground or they have been faceless. So a lot of us who are in the business of public demonstrations or public engagements have been asking, why is it difficult for people who want to embark on a protest to come out and let the public know their intentions? But be that as it may, I think why it has generated this reaction from the public space is because people are still living with the memories of the NSAS insurrection and protest of anarchy in 2020, where civilians were killed, policemen were killed, even some policemen that were killed were cannibalized, where public and private assets were looted and burnt, where individuals were robbed on the roads, where some persons, because they feel that disappointed by the way Nigerians are dealt with. So that is the reason why Nigerians are this agitated about this protest.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ekujimi, for that. Now let's forward the same question to Dr. Johnson. What is your perspective on the protest? Do you believe that the call for it is justified at this time?
One of the fundamental values of democracy is for the majority to have their way and the minority to have their say. You need dissenting and consenting view to build any given society. So protest, the right to self-expression of dissent with government policies and program, it's a fundamental principle of democratic government. And so we practice democracy, and so people have a fundamental right to express their dissent in a peaceful and non-violent manner. And just like Nelson said, that why a lot of people are having misgivings concerning protests in Nigeria was as a result of the outcome of 2020 NSAS protest. Don't forget that the present democratic experience we are enjoying were a product of NADECO protest. And so without those NADECO protests and movement, we wouldn't have this democracy we are enjoying today. So there is no way we can grow this nation without giving opportunity for dissenting view. I agree with him in the sense that if you want to protest, there must be an identity. You can't be an amorphous group and want to plan a protest. There should be an identity to the groups that want to plan this protest so that government can engage, and they can engage with security agencies with respect to what they need and what they require in terms of the protest, and those that can be held accountable.
Okay,
and
so now that somebody has been identified, does it make any difference? Does it change anything?
I think the Minister of Federal Capital Territory should make available the resources they have required for them to make use of the Eagle Square. If we can use it for party convention, you can use it for other things. People can also use it for dissent. So they should make it available to them, provide them with security, as long as they confine themselves within that venue, and then properties are not destroyed, people are not, ordinary citizens are not harassed, and people are not stopped from going about their normal business. I think it's a fundamental responsibility of the government and security agencies to provide venue for people that want to express their dissent. And that is what is done in civilized clime. You talk about Trafalgar Square, United Kingdom, and the rest of it. So once that body has applied, I think we should, for us to really deepen democracy, we must provide opportunities for dissenting views in a democratic, peaceful manner.
Okay. Now, let's come back to you, Mr. Ekujimi. Now, what is your opinion on the warnings from some quarters, against holding the protest? We did see a report that traditional leaders were in a meeting to, speak to people about holding the protest as well. Could this be seen as an attempt to infringe on the people's right to protest?
Well, I don't think so, because I've listened to some of the comments coming from certain quarters, and it has been one of appeal. And if somebody is appealing to you not to take a course of action, it does not make your course of action illegal or wrong. It means the person is only telling you to reconsider your course of action. But if you decide to go otherwise, I think that is within your right. But most importantly, why a lot of admonitions have been going on is because the protesters, organizers have been faceless. Nobody knew them until you came up with a letterhead of an organization. So this is an organization that belonged to a person, or who was the head of the organization, who has contested the election repeatedly and he has lost. So for some of us, when we see things like this, we are asking, are you really for politics or you are for revolution? Because you cannot come and participate in politics, and when you lose election, the next minute you are calling for revolution. Revolution to do what? So if people have been admonished, we hope that they will consider that advice from. Don't forget that some of these admonitions are coming from elderly citizens. They are coming from traditional rulers who are our fathers. So if my father is talking to me as a young man, if I don't want to miss my way, it behoves on me to listen and reflect on what my father has said. But be that as it may, like Jide Johnson has rightly said, it's within their rights to go on this protest, or if they want to. But they must recognize that going on a protest does not in any way give you the liberty to infringe on the rights of other citizens.
Yeah, but even at that, Mr. Ekujimi, we've actually seen the violence that erupted during the Kenyan protest and also the crackdown during the Ugandan protest. I'm sure this is what the government is actually afraid of. But do you anticipate any potential crackdown by security forces if the protest does proceed?
No, I expect that the security forces will intervene if the protest goes against the norms. It goes contrary to the constitution of Nigeria. And that is when you start infringing on other person's right. Don't forget, when we had the 2020 protests, some persons claimed that it was hijacked. So if you are holding a party in your house, or anywhere in a public space, it behoves on you to provide security and ensure that unwanted people don't go into the venue. If an unwanted person comes into the venue, and God forbid, maybe the person is under the weather, and he collapses and dies, there's nothing you can tell anybody. He would have collapsed and died on your property, so you will be liable. So in this case, the violence you are talking about, if it eventually degenerates to that level, you and I know that the police have a constitutional right to maintain law and order. And even the police have a right to abort a protest if they realize that there's a threat to public peace. That you are going to protest does not mean it is absolute. If the police have information that you as a protester is going to be harmed, the police have a right to go and rescue you and take you away from the protest. So people should not believe that any rights you have under the Constitution is absolute. Those rights must be gathered within the confines of the law.
Okay. Now, just before we go, Dr. Jide, one last question for you. Now, talking about this particular formal request by the Director of Mobilization of the Take It Back movement, do you see the government, giving access, granting access to protesters, that's access to the Eagle Square to protesters, considering that they're totally against it and there's been so much drama, rumored to want to happen between August 1st to August 15th? Do you see them granting that request?
Well, if you look at the character and the presence of the FCT minister, it takes a simple thing to come to a judgment with respect to what will be his action or reaction. In the visuals you play earlier, you saw the language he was using. The language he used was that of not even a minister, was that of not even a democratically elected person, someone that has a democratic perspective, but someone that has an autocratic and authoritarian disposition towards the issue. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm not too sure that request will be granted by the FCT. But moving forward, and I think this is what will be very, very good for our country. I think moving forward, across the length and breadth of Nigeria, across the 36 states capital, the federal capital, and the local government capital, I think we should have spaces, designated spaces, created by government, that if you have any kind of dissent, these are the spaces you could go to. You recall in 2012, we went to Ojota. In 2012, we went to Ojota Gani Fahimi Center. You have that Abiola Center to along that Lagos-Ibadan Expressway on the way to Third Mainland Bridge. So government should create designated places whereby if people want to express dissent, so that you can provide security and there can be media coverage.
Even in Abuja, the Unity Fountain is usually used for protests like this.
Yeah, so that if you want to protest, so that you don't block the road, you don't disturb other people, you don't use your own right to protest to infringe on other people's right. That I agree in totality. But we must make provisions for people that have dissent to express their dissent. That is the beauty of democracy. Those that are enjoying this Fourth Republic, they enjoy the benefit of the protest and the movement led by NADECO. And that's why they are in government today. And they should understand that dissent is part of growing the society. That's just my conclusion.
All right, well, thank you so much, Mr. Ekujimi, and also Dr. Johnson, for taking time out of your busy schedule to speak to us on this.
It's a pleasure to be with you. And thank you, Nelson, for joining us on this.
Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. President Bola Tinubu has formally received letters of credence from the newly appointed ambassadors of Botswana, Malaysia, and the United States. During his meeting with the U.S. ambassador to Nigeria, Richard Mills Jr., Tinubu urged the American government to place greater emphasis on Africa. In his audience with the Malaysian High Commissioner to Nigeria, Ayub bin Omar, Tinubu pledged Nigeria's commitment to enhancing the balance of trade between the two nations. Similarly, with Botswana's High Commissioner, Field Nani Kereng, the president expressed Nigeria's eagerness to foster strong cultural and economic ties with the southern African country. Let's head to Borno State, where the Northeast Development Commission has distributed hundreds of prosthetic limbs, crutches and wheelchairs in an effort to improve the lives of people with disabilities in the region. Managing Director of NEDC, Muhammad Al-Kali, who flagged off the exercise in Maiduguri, said the initiative was part of efforts to promote inclusivity and empowerment for people living with disabilities. News Central's Umar Kirawa completes the report.
It is a day to smile for these persons living with disabilities who previously faced challenges in mobility in Borno State of Nigeria's northeast. The provision of these mobility aids, according to them, is a long-awaited dream.
Sai dai abokanan arziki ne za su tallafa maka saboda kullum kana zaune guri daya to amma yanzu tunda Allah ya sa ka samu an samu kafan nan to akwai hanya da mutum zai iya zuwa ya dan nemi taro da kobo abu da zai dan cire gidansa da shi.
Na ga akwai bambancin kafar roba da rashin kafar roba. Allah ya saka da alheri. Na gode a wannan kungiya da ta taimake ni da kafar roba.
Na yi farin ciki sosai. Zan ringa karatu na da shi. Ni kuma na zama kamar kowa, kamar mai kafa biyu.
Na ji daɗi, kafa nan an yanka ina sha wahala. Allah ya taimake ni yau kuma kina ban kafan roba. Ga na tafiya da kamar wayansu amma bai kai mai kafa biyu ba, alhamdulillah ni man tafiya da kafa na. Zan je cikin jama'a yanzu na shiga sau ma Allah ya da zan sa sau sai zan saya. Da muna sai kafa da wani ya gani kafa na dama zai baya. Yanzu ba wanda zai kiyama ni.
The insurgency, which has impacted the Northeast, led to a significant increase in the number of people living with disabilities.
You can see some of them have been suffering using some local crutches and this and that. We now try to provide modern ones that will make them work as normal persons so that they can do whatever they want to do in life. So this is why we have partnered with the Commission of the Commission so that we can be able to provide what they need. As you heard them saying, we should consult them to tell us what they want. And this is one of the things they wanted, and we provided them today.
Addressing the socio-economic challenges faced by this vulnerable group is said to be among other things that prompted the need to support them.
We have been building houses, schools, clinics, and so on and so forth. And what we can do to improve the life of people in North, we can do it. Now that it's rainy season, we're looking at agriculture so that people can be able to go back to farm. We're looking at security and so on and so forth.
The persons with special needs still look up to the Northeast Development Commission, among other agencies, and the privileged for more support and economic self-sufficiency in the region. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
To security update now. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tarid Lagbaja, has restated the unwavering commitment of the Nigerian Army in carrying out their constitutional mandate with due diligence. The Army boss was speaking during the opening ceremony of the Interformation Combat Obstacle Crossing Competition 2024 at the 3 Armored Division Maxwell Kobe Cantonment in Jos. According to General Lagbaja, the competition was to improve the endurance, leadership skills, and obstacle crossing techniques of troops. Correspondent Chizoba Nyongwe was there for News Central and now reports.
Do solemnly swear to abide by the rules governing the competition,
hoisting their flags from the 8 divisions participating in this year's competition. They took an oath to remain law-abiding throughout the period of the competition.
Are you good to go?
Beginning this year's competition this way is to uphold and reward hard work, resilience, and teamwork among troops of the Nigerian Army. The Chief of Army Staff says this and more they will continuously do to improve the capacity of the Nigerian Army.
The competition seeks to improve the endurance, team spirit, esprit de corps, leadership skills, and obstacle crossing techniques of the competitors in pursuit of my command philosophy, which is to transform the Nigerian Army into a well-trained, equipped, and highly motivated force towards achieving our constitutional responsibilities within a joint environment.
If this competition is anything to go by, with the human and material resources expended, then the Nigerian Army will not rest on its part in ensuring necessary measures are put in place for greater strides.
It is therefore paramount to state that this competition is not only to maintain proficiency, but to also continually enhance our capabilities to effectively tackle the evolving and dynamic security threats.
As you can see behind me now, this is a display of determination, a display of resilience, a display of teamwork and team spirit. However, it is expected that at the end of this competition, these troops will go back to their various formations where they have come from to step down to other troops as a way of improving the skills and, of course, team spirit while they do their job in their various fields. From the 3rd Division Nigerian Army in Jos, Chizoba Anyowe, reporting for News Central.
Away from security, Nigeria has commenced its 2024 National Diaspora Day celebration in the nation's capital, Abuja. The colorful event, which was graced by world leaders, saw them laud over 20 million Nigerians in diaspora for contributing to the world economy through science, arts, technology and innovation. News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu reports.
Of the fascinating Nigerian brand to the admirations of not just Nigerians at home, but those in the diaspora. It's the 2024 National Diaspora Day celebration in Nigeria, a day set aside for strategizing on ways to harness the strong potentials of the nation's over 20 million Nigerians in diaspora and also commend their exploits in various fields.
Everybody, and now to the diaspora, all of you from all over the world, Europe, America, Canada, Africa, Australia, all over the world, you're most welcome to your country. We talk about Nigerians in the diaspora, we know that you are all simply the best, resourceful, productive, energetic, working so hard everywhere in the world, developing world economies. But we say that you also have to develop the Nigerian economy.
Diaspora voting did not start now. It's been there for a long time. But I think it's about time it becomes more than a vision, to be given wheels to become a mission, especially considering the fact that the dynamics of our time have shown that your relevance to nation building cannot be overemphasized. We should not only be interested in the money you bring back, we should be interested in protecting and projecting your right. The question becomes, does those in diaspora have a right? And if yes, what are those rights? Does this right include the right to vote? If yes, how do we secure that?
My Vice President, President Kamala Harris, announced the creation of the President's Advisory Committee on African Diaspora Engagement in the United States. And following the establishment of the Council, it was a 12-member committee, and 2 are Nigerian. That is the power of Nigeria. And they were here last week, and I spent time with them
I learned from them, and I was so impressed to hear the Honorable Abike talk about the needs in Nigeria, talk about the interventions, talk about what you all are doing.
While some people may view immigration as a negative phenomenon, I disagree. Migration presents opportunities for growth and development. It is also not a new phenomenon, but its complexity and scale have increased exponentially in recent years. As someone who once lived and worked abroad, I can attest that migration can be a transformative experience.
New York State Senator Kevin Parker, a proud Nigerian in diaspora, adorning Nigerian cultural attire, reeled out his vision to make Nigeria proud while in the diaspora.
Well, one of the things is how hard everybody works, right? And the fact when I come here and everybody's so excited about me being here and welcome me home, it makes me know that I've made the right decision by coming here and participating in this. And so that's very exciting for me. And I think that with all of the dynamic we deal with in terms of racism is a global dynamic. And so we got. And so we have to lean on each other and work with each other to make our lives better and to make this world better for our people.
The theme of the 2024 Diaspora Day celebration, which is Japa Phenomena and its implication to national development, reminds Nigerians of the fact that they need to positively showcase the fascinating Nigerian brand and, of course, return home to use advanced expertise and skills to develop the country. In Abuja, for News Central, I am Emmanuel Bagudu.
Now let's move to Niger, where the military leader, General Abdurrahman Tiani, has declared that the West African country is on an inexorable march towards sovereignty. Tiani made this announcement during a speech commemorating the first anniversary of the coup d'etat that brought him to power.
Aucun État, aucune organisation interétatique ne nous dictera la conduite à tenir, ni son agenda en matière de partenariat stratégique ou diplomatique. Et ceux qui fantasment sur la remise en selle imminente des régimes déchus à leur solde vont déchanter. Ils devront se rendre à l'évidence avant qu'il ne soit trop tard. Notre marche vers la souveraineté pleine et entière et inexorable.
Staying in West Africa, residents of the Ajami village in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, are digging through rubble for their belongings as excavators continue to demolish houses to make way for a new road. On Thursday, expelled residents expressed their anger by hurling stones at security forces who responded with tear gas. At least one mechanical digger was set ablaze during the confrontation. Ajami is one of many traditional villages in the city of 6 million people where evictions have increased since February, particularly in poorer districts prone to flooding. Earlier this year, floods claimed at least 24 lives within 10 days.
Ils sont rentrés dans la cour, ils ont défoncé les portails, défoncé les portes. Ils ont pris toutes mes choses, mes bijoux, mes habits, tout est parti. Le portable de mon enfant, l'ordinateur, tout est parti. Je ne sais pas si ils sont venus pour casser ou bien ils sont venus pour nous dépouiller. Donc voilà ça, nous sommes dans la désolation. On ne fait pas ça. On ne fait pas ça.
Ils viennent casser la maison, vous me regardez. Regardez. Ils sont rentrés même dans la maison, ils ont cassé même les portes. Dans la peur, ils ont cassé les portes, même ils sont rentrés, ils ont fouillé les maisons, volé les trucs, saccagé les trucs. On ne sait pas qui a fait ça. Est-ce que ça c'est bon?
Nous, on se disait que c'est un petit centimètre qu'ils avaient demandé qu'ils allaient prendre. Mais à nos surprises, ils ont débordé par rapport à ce qu'on pensait. Vous voyez, non? Vraiment, c'est catastrophe. C'est catastrophe, on ne peut pas tout dire. Mais
In the east of the continent, the police in Uganda have continued their crackdown on protesters, arresting at least 73 young people, including 3 on Wednesday, who were attempting to hold a press conference. The recent protests were partially inspired by youth-led demonstrations in neighboring Kenya, which saw participation from young Ugandans who had mobilized online. The protesters are demanding the resignation of Speaker of Parliament Anita Among, who was named in a corruption expose published on social media in February. They are also calling for the reduction of the high salaries of Ugandan parliamentarians, who are among the highest paid in the world. Now, earlier, we were joined on the news by Kato Tumusime, a human rights lawyer and advocate in Kampala, Uganda. In the absence of that, we head to southern Ethiopia's Kencho Sachagodsi district, where the search for bodies and survivors of a devastating landslide continues. The disaster, which has claimed at least 257 lives, according to United Nations, has left many grieving. Solomon Soma, who lost 13 relatives, including his sister, in the tragedy, said identifying the bodies has been incredibly difficult.
ሰባት ያጎተ ልጆች እንደገና የወንድም ልጆችን እነዚህ ሁሉ ጠቅላላ 13 ነፍስ ነው ያጣነው እና 12ቱ አስከሬናቸው ተገኝተዋል። አንድ እህቴ የእናቴ አባቴ ልጅ
Now let's head to North Africa, where Algeria's President Abdelmadjid Tebboune, who has been accused of leading a crackdown on dissent since the mass protest in 2019, is set to face 2 challengers in the upcoming September 7th election. The challengers are Abdullah Ali Hassani from the moderate Islamist Party, the Movement of Society for Peace, and Yusuf Auchiche from the center-left Socialist Forces Front. The other 13 hopefuls had their candidacies rejected after failing to gather the required number of supporting signatures. Tebboune, who won the presidency in 2019 with 58% of the vote following months of pro-democracy protests, announced in March that the presidential election would be held on September 7.
سي عبد العالي حساني وسي أوشيش والسيد تبون عبد المجيد. هذم الثلاثة الذين قبلت
Now, in other news from around the world, authorities say a Philippine flag tanker MT Terra Nova sank off the coast of Manila on Thursday while carrying 1.4 million liters of industrial fuel oil. The incident, which occurred nearly 7 kilometers of the Limay municipality in Bataan province, resulted in the death of 1 crew member. The tanker was en route to Iloilo City when it capsized in Manila Bay amidst rough seas. Heavy rains driven by Typhoon Gami and the seasonal monsoon have been lashing Manila and surrounding regions over the past few days. An extensive oil slick stretching several kilometers has been detected. Now, the Philippine Coast Guard is preparing to apply dispersants and deploy floating barriers to contain the spill. Coastal provinces in eastern and southern China have heightened their typhoon emergency responses as Typhoon Gami sweeps the region. Now, authorities also warn that the storm will bring torrential rains, posing a significant flooding risk. On Friday, authorities evacuated nearly 300,000 people and suspended public transport across eastern China as Typhoon Gami unleashed heavy rains. The rains have already claimed 5 lives in nearby Taiwan. Gemi, the strongest typhoon to hit Taiwan in 8 years, made landfall on Thursday, flooding part of the island's second-largest city. The typhoon also exacerbated seasonal rains in the Philippines, triggering floods and landslides that killed 30 people on its path to Taiwan. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has reaffirmed his commitment to securing the release of all captives. He was speaking during a meeting in Washington with the families of hostages. Kamala Harris, a presidential hopeful, signaled a significant shift in U.S. Gaza policy. She urged Netanyahu to finalize a peace deal and promised not to remain silent on the suffering in the Palestinian enclave. Harris also called for the establishment of a Palestinian state and pressed both Netanyahu and Hamas to agree to a ceasefire and a hostage release deal to end the conflict sparked by Hamas's October 7th attack on Israel.
These are families of hostages praying, yearning to see their loved ones brought home. Today we were just informed, as we were speaking, there was a report of 5 hostages that unfortunately are not alive, but it confirms what we knew. And our soldiers found them and brought them back. But we're committed to bringing everyone back. We're engaged in very intensive efforts. And I hope they succeed. And I want to thank
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. We've made that commitment to the families. The American people are with you. They're praying for you. They empathize with what you're going through. They sympathize with you, and we want to be a partner with Israel, as you said so well in your speech. This alliance is so important to both countries and to the world, and we defend one another, as you said so well. And Iran is the source of all the evil, and their proxies are doing all of this harm, and we've got to stop it. And good will prevail over evil. We're confident in that, and we'll bring them back. And we'll bring them back.
In the world of sports, Crystal Palace have agreed a deal to sign long-term transfer target Ismaila Sarr from Marseille. Standard Sport suggests or understands that the Senegal international winger is poised to undergo a medical in London on Friday ahead of completing a summer move from French club Marseille worth around £12.7 million. Sarr is said to have agreed an initial 4-year contract with Palace as he prepares to return to English football after only a year away. The 26-year-old previously spent 4 years at Watford between 2019 to 2023 after arriving from Rennes for a club record fee of £27 million, scoring 34 goals and registering 22 assists in 131 total appearances across all competitions for the Hornets. Rafael Nadal returned to training at Roland Garros on Friday after an injury scare had put his participation at the Paris Olympics in doubt. The 14-time French Open champion practiced with Carlos Alcaraz, with whom he is scheduled to compete alongside Spain in the men's doubles first round on Saturday. The 38-year-old wore a bandage on his right leg after suffering a thigh injury on Wednesday and skipping training the following day. His coach, Carlos Moya, had said Nadal was fighting to be fit in time. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our top stories. We told you that President Bola Tinubu may sign new minimum wage bill next week. We also told you that federal government has delayed direct payment of monthly allocations to local governments. We also told you that Algerian president will face 2 challenges in September's presidential election. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Dashen Usman.